Well, hello everyone. I am delighted. It's my pleasure to share with you today a conversation with two beautiful persons whom I have the privilege to consider as my friends, Niara, Terela, Isley, and Tony Rodrigues. A while ago, we had that private, informal conversation, all three together, and then at the end, we went, Tony said, wow, if we had recorded this one, that would have hit all the records. So he said, let's do one and let's record it. So how are you both?
Pretty good.
I'm great. It's summer here in Michigan, so you got to get out and get it all you can where I'm at. So I've been kind of busy and I did an interview earlier today, and like I was saying, I'm kind of rusty. It's been a couple weeks for me, just a couple weeks off of doing interviews, which is first time in a long time, and I'm rusty. I feel rusty. I feel a little rusty, but I'm so happy. I've been looking forward to this. We scheduled this a while ago. Miss you guys, and I admire both of your work from afar for sure. It's going well.
Great. So Tony, you wrote this book that I recommend, Ceres Colony Cavalier. You were abducted when you were a child because you pissed off the wrong kid and you were taken into evil space, dark space programs. You speak about this in your book. You spent a lot of years, 20 and back. You've been on Moon and Mars, but also on most of the time on Ceres as a slave. And Niara, you had a different story. You had missing time as you were an adult, a contractor in the U.S. Army for radar.
Listed in the Air Force.
Listed.
I was Air Force personnel myself, where I wore the uniform and everything, and I worked on radar. But yeah, I wasn't a contractor. I was actually a member of the armed forces.
Okay. And you've written this book.
Yes.
Facing the Shadow, Embracing the Light, which is not only a big book as well, which is not only your experience and your misadventures, but as well, I think it's a beautiful and powerful spiritual book. It's a spiritual guide because it's really going from the shadow and the trauma to embrace the divinity and the beauty of a human soul that you are. So you've both been through amazing experiences that made of you inspirational guides for humanity and for those especially who had the same misadventures and traumas, and you inspired these people to remember and to go deep and to take the courage. Tony, you have on your website remembering course. How do you call that?
A memory course. Yeah.
Memory course.
A memory course. Yeah.
Yes. So, well, I want to start by asking you a question. This question, you both got to a point where you start to remembering. I want to ask you if you were to do it again the way you remembered, would you have preferred that it happen differently? Niara, what about you?
Would I have preferred to happen differently? Well, it's a tough question because obviously the memories were so traumatic that my subconscious says she cannot be allowed to remember this consciously because it would be life-threatening. And I had already, from not remembering and having the PTSD that I had, even without having any memories to go with the PTSD, it's like I'm experiencing all the emotional effects of PTSD, which I've come to call like emotional seismic events in the human body, because it takes a hold of you and it shakes you to the core. And when you don't have any memory to validate the fact that you have PTSD or to explain why you have PTSD, that's really hard. I mean, I came very close to suicide then, and it was a good experience because it going straight up to it and looking the suicide thing in the face. Once I did that, I knew I couldn't do it. I knew that because I'm more than just this body, because I'm soul, I knew that if I held myself that way, I would have to come back and do it over, and I'd have to confront a lot of things on the other side that would have been really difficult to confront. Thought is creative on the astral plane. It's instantaneously creative on the astral plane. And going out in that dark and negative state of fear and anger and frustration, I would have probably met demons of my own making there as soon as I exited the body and was there. So decided not to do it. As rough as it was getting the memories back the way I did, I think I would do it the same way over again, because I don't think there would be any easy way to reclaim these memories. And at least when I was with Bud Hopkins, I had his support and I had his validation, because he told me that he has worked with other people who had the same kind of memories emerge during hypnosis. And that was one of the things. So the more I went out and talked to people that had had similar experiences, there were so many of them. I mean, for every person that I did talk to, I knew there were 20 more out there that I wasn't talking to, or more. And it's kind of like, well, people look askance at hypnosis somewhat. You know, they think, oh, you can't really trust the information. But I said, look, I said, if this was an isolated thing and I had had these experiences, you know, that came out under hypnosis, and I couldn't find anybody else out there that had similar experiences, then I might have wondered if, you know, it was an anomaly, or, you know, a fluke that I had these strange memories, but no one else had. Then I would really, even though they felt so real, I would have doubted their reality. But when there's so many other people that are having experiences like this, and some of them remember on their own, and some of them remember via hypnosis or other techniques, then there has to be something to this. There has to be something really going on that makes this real. And it certainly felt real. It felt real in my body. The feelings around it I felt were real. I would even have physical sensations of someone choking and strangling me or smothering me, you know, and I would have those bodily experiences without the memory. And they were terrifying. These little spells that I would have, they were terrifying, but there was no memory to go with them until much later. And then it all made sense and fell into place. And so as rough as it was to do it the way I did it, I really don't know how else I could have done it. If I'd gotten back a little bit at a time and had, you know, had time to integrate each set of memories that came, I think it might have been a longer, more torturous process, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was better, you know, it's kind of like me, you know, I'm kind of like that in my life, you know, okay, well, if I've got to go through this, bring it. You know, let's do it. Let's see what happens, you know. I'm here, I'm on board. Yeah, so that's kind of how I feel about it.
That's interesting. And I agree. When I did my hypnosis regarding to my little abduction, nothing to compare to you both, like us. I want just to pull the plug straight away, not, you know, let's go for it. Hypnosis, boom. But I already had memories. But Tony's different. You had memories as you were growing up, because you spent 20 years and you did it as a slave for the Dark Fleet, and you came back. You were age regressed to the age of the child when you were abducted, and then you were having memories at the same time as your alter ego, yourself was growing up in this dark space program. So that's exceptional, isn't it? So I don't know.
So I had snippets coming through the whole time, but it's funny. It's not funny. It's
I know.
peculiar. It's
Interesting.
whatever. It blows me away. It's to listen to Niara talk about the exact same thing that I totally know what she means, like the PTSD without knowing why. So I had the same thing. I had the same thing through in my 20s. And even people that were close to me, I would sit down. There were times I sat with my friends and said, I don't know what's wrong with me, man, but something's wrong with me. And they would go, Tony, something's wrong with you. Well, what caused you to be like this? And it was that I had PTSD. I had emotional problems. I had everything. It's funny. I'm listening to you talk, Niara, and it's the same. I experienced it the same way that you say it. And if you ask me the question, what would I do differently? The biggest thing is I had nobody to talk to. It was 2015, it was May of April. I got my MRI in May of 2015, and all these memories flooded back. And I went, what's going on? Something's wrong with me, right? So something's wrong. And then I found the places. So the other thing is that, my experience, it's not entirely unique, but it's rare that I was on Earth during the 20 years. So I went to Seattle, I went to Peru. And when I found those places were real, I got my memories back and then found the places. It wasn't in the opposite order. I didn't remember, and then like connected dots between somewhere that I had been before. Cause I had no idea that Puerto Tawantinsuyo, Peru existed. I had zero, and I just got on Google and cause I had the memories and I started kind of looking around and, oh my God, there it is. And so when that kind of shocked me and hit me that it was real, what I was remembering was real, that I had reality. At that point, I wanted someone to talk to. I was alone, like totally alone for that period of months that I was reached out to anybody, please, because I wasn't crazy. That's the thing, is I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew there wasn't something wrong with me. I'm a functioning person. I function in society and kind of, for the most part, not really a screwball. And so I knew something I knew that there was something to it. And when I began everything, I started researching that I could to checked out. And if anything, I feel like I would have wanted to remember sooner. I feel like the PTSD, the experience of not having the memories was way too long. When I got the memories back, there was a time when I was in space that I was trapped in like a pipe, and I got hurt. I got injured. And as a result, when I came back, when it was all over with, I had claustrophobia. I was afraid of small places. And as soon as I got my memories back and I remembered why I had claustrophobia, it went away. It's gone. It dispelled it. So that problem that I took with me, that fear of being in a tight space, it was because I didn't know why I was afraid of tight spaces. I didn't know why I was afraid. And when I got the memories back, I went, oh, that's why. No kidding. And then so it's just it put it into perspective. It was like dispelled it. And I wish I would have had my memories all along when I look at it that way. Like there's a lot of things that I did not want to reconcile, that I did not want to accept that happened to me, especially the Seattle stuff. Like I didn't want to know that, but I'd rather know it and integrate, you know what I mean? Like, and get it behind me. Like just kind of face the, you know what I mean? Just pull the tooth, doc, kind of thing. And rather than suffer with it. And I suffered for a long time with the baggage without knowing, just exactly like Niara said, like the emotional problem, the emotional scars without knowing why it happened. And in the beginning, getting those memories back, it was scary. I had nobody to go through. So I recommend that to people that have reached out to me as well, is find somebody that you trust, that you can talk to, that's not going to play the Debbie Downer with you or question you at every turn, like somebody that's going to come at you as a skeptic, somebody that's going to be supportive as a friend. Most people that are get memory recall of being deleted, it doesn't have to be a military program. It's like people that are getting abducted by ETs, they're deleting your memory. They erase your memory. So that's the phenomenon that we're really dealing with here. It doesn't matter who took you. It doesn't matter if it was an ET or not. It doesn't matter. You have memories that are gone. that you experience. So you have life that's been taken from you. And so people that go through that, I always recommend, and what I found is that most of the time, if they're married, they have a spouse, the spouse doesn't want to hear it. You know, like in a relationship, it's baggage. It's another obstacle that the spouse is like, look, I don't want to hear this. We have enough to worry about already in life. People have whatever, parents, house, mortgage, bills, whatever it is, they want to worry about it. And when the spouse comes up with this stuff, like, look, I think I was on Mars. Hey, they you know what I mean? The spouse just doesn't want to hear it. They're like, go away. So it's rare that you get people that the couple sorted out together. So that person is double alone. And I always tell people, like, find a best friend, find somebody in this community. There's people, you know, I don't have a ton of a group behind it, but there is a lot of people now that you can reach out to and talk to about it. And I think that talking about it is the absolute best therapy. But to answer your question, I wish the memories would have happened sooner. And I wish I would have had somebody that understood that I could talk to. And I thought that I was going to reach out to people that had already spoken, like Niara. I reached out to her and whatever. That's a whole nother story. I tried to get you on Facebook. I was already blocked. And well, it wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
But there were other people. There was somebody in the community that was very well known that I flew out to meet and immediately got snubbed. And so there were people that I thought that I was going to meet other people that are coming forward and speaking about it. And for the most part, everybody I've met that has experienced something similarly is like we gravitate toward each other. You want to talk. You don't want to trade notes. You just want somebody that understands the feelings of, you know, of what it feels like to be shocked into learning that there are ETs, from one, and two, that being into space, just the shock of it all. And so people gravitate towards each other. And what I thought originally, the community, I thought some people that were sharing their information would welcome me or want to talk to me as much as I didn't get that in the early days. And so it was a little painful, you know.
Yeah.
A little bit of a snub. So maybe I found more. And then we've got a lot of people now coming out with info that's completely different. And so that doesn't mean nothing happened. If I don't agree with somebody's information, I don't think that nothing happened. I just think that they're still remembering, because as much as I remember, I spit out enough. I got the entire book's worth of info in the first month of my memory recall. It's like all that came, and I thought, what do I do with this? But I'm still remembering more. It still comes to you. You know, it's like just life experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, two things came up for me while you were talking. One is, if you have a good body-centered or somatic therapist and you're having body sensations that with emotions that go with them, but you don't have memories, you can get someone to take you very deep into the body experiences that you're having. Like in my case, having that feeling of being choked and my heart beating like mad, you know, like I was going to fly out of my chest. If I'd had somebody that did like somatic, you know, body-centered work, she could have said, well, stay with that feeling, tell me exactly in minute detail what you're feeling in that area, what you're feeling around your heart. And I might have gotten the memories back that way. That's one pathway, I think, is the body remembers even when the mind doesn't. So if you can find a really good body-centered therapist that is intrepid and not afraid to go where your body sensations might take you, then, you know, you could retrieve memories that way. The other thing that came up for me while Tony was talking that I think I've talked about before, but it bears repeating here for anybody that might be listening for the first time to us. And that is, there's that technology that was put out in the movie Paycheck with Ben Affleck and Uma Thurman, where they actually put electrodes on the head, and they would go in and they'd look for the memories, and then they would zap the neurons that led into that had those memories in them. So physically, they would just go in and electronically zap the neurons and basically isolate a block of memory, or maybe just, you know, get rid of the block of memory altogether. The thing that they don't realize with that technique is all the things that ever happened to you are in your aura. They're in your aura around your body. So even if they do something to the chemical linkages in the brain, you still can retrieve it because it's going to live in your body. It's going to be part of your Akashic records or your soul records forever and ever. And you can still get it back that way. So even if you've had one of those things, which I suspect that was part of what happened to me, because when I watched the movie, I had quite an emotional reaction to that technique. The other movie that dealt with it was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where people could just hire somebody to come in to their brain and say, I have all these memories of all this heartbreak, and so I don't want to have them anymore. So the guy would go in and erase the person and the memories all around this, you know, relationship that he wanted to forget. But the other thing with that was when I was reading a book called, it was on chaos theory. I can't think of the title right now. But anyway, there was a part where I got in the book where they were talking about Los Alamos National Labs doing experiments with the human brain and chaos theory. You know, like looking at how the brain operates with chaos theory and everything else like that. And because Los Alamos National Labs had been a contractor presence on the Nevada test site where I lived and worked, I remember just looking at that, reading that part, and I shut the book, I put it down, and I never picked it up again, because it was like, that's too close to home. That's like too close to home. Whatever is in there, I don't want to look at it. So now I need to go back and pick the book up again and look at it again. But I'll try and I'll try to get the title and
Memory
it.
deletion. You think about the technology and what it would take for a society to actually use that in a positive way. I mean, obviously, it's very useful in a military setting, and I think that you know, the military's got it a long time ago, and socially we weren't ready for it. I think this is a tech that we weren't ready for because it's spiraled out of control. Like you know, now they've erased so much memory, and they've done so many things illegally and deleted people that they can't uncork it to give us disclosure. They can't undo it because they've done it so badly. And you know, I've said it in other interviews that, like, even if I had everybody, it's a slippery slope. If you had the ability to take anybody and do whatever you want to them and program them, like the other component is mind control. You know, you can be programmed to do a lot of things against your will. And so if you had that ability coupled with the ability to put them back exactly how you found them without them remembering what happened, I mean, most people, I think, would eventually abuse that after a while. Like in the beginning, you'd start out and find good things to do, but after a while, you'd be like, you know, I'm going to make these people dancers, or I'm going to make these people do something stupid, you know, just to entertainment value. And I think it turned into that. I think it really did. At first, it was about combat and defense and noble causes. And I think that the programs, some compartments of them went down very slippery slopes.
Yeah,
and, now they can't undo it.
Have you read Transformation of America by Kathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips?
So I've skipped through her info. Yeah, I haven't read the whole thing cover to cover, but I'm aware of her testimony.
I read the cover to cover, and what we're talking about here is trauma-based mind control. They learned that trauma would allow memories to be compartmentalized in the brain, and during the trauma, they could program that person with a control word, and that person could carry a message to another person, like another government official in a different country, and that person would be given the control or trigger word, and that person then would remember and tell them that whole message that they were programmed to remember under the trauma-based mind control. And that's just one aspect of it. It's gotten very dark and very ugly. So
that's what was the beginning part that I went through. And, you know, proving my case, I mean, everybody here in this call, you know, in this meeting, we all have the burden of proof. And researching my own case that was one of the proofs that came up as I found funding for the program that I went through of the early trauma-based mind control and the location and everything. And there's a lot of other stuff, but because there's two people that are still alive, I don't really, I don't really shout it off the rooftops because of many reasons. It's just kind of dangerous to expose people that have broken the law in such a way, or
Yeah.
even participated in some with kids. But
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I dug up actually quite a bit of evidence when I was looking for it, and which was disappointing for me personally, because when I researched something, if I could prove that everything that I remember was wrong, then that means that all the terrible stuff didn't happen either. But it's always the opposite. Like I go, maybe I remember it was like this. Let's look, and I Google it. We start researching. I go, wow, it's exactly how I remember it. So it means it was right all
Yeah.
along.
That National Security Act of 1947 created that wall of secrecy by all these special programs. It created the alphabet agencies, and the people like the CIA and other entities within the government, they could then do this mind control experimentation and research, and they were completely shielded from any public or government oversight. And people even in government with security clearances, if they didn't have a need to know, they didn't know. That wall of secrecy worked to help people perpetrate terrible things against other human beings and shielded them from being prosecuted should those people remember. And that's really what the secrecy was about. It was about maybe this much national security, good secrecy, like we can't give away our secrets to foreign governments. And it was this much secrecy to shield these special ops government programs from scrutiny, public oversight, and prosecution for crimes against humanity. So,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a way to look at it. Yeah, sorry.
Well, see where we're at now. We're seeing mass mind control. There are, it doesn't work if you're aware that it's happening, and but you can see that the masses, you can see the influence that they do. They're engineering society a certain way, and it's not in anybody's. I mean, Elena, you're not in the United States, but like we in the United States, we think that all our tax dollars like are going towards our interests. As a citizen, you think that you're being taxed and you're doing all this stuff, you're working, and that it's going towards our benefit. It's not the case anymore. It's going towards a organization that is in charge of everything, that pretends like they're the United States, but it's not the United States. So,
it's like they do all this stuff, and then they send millions and millions of dollars to the Ukraine, taxpayer money. And it's just, indoctrination is a form of mind control. And in the United States, and I suspect all around the world as well, you start getting indoctrinated from birth. You get the little girl program, you get the little boy program, you get religious at Sunday school, and then in school they teach you things. And back when I was going to school, I think I actually got more of an education than an indoctrination, but still the indoctrination was there. And I really feel that my propensity for daydreaming through my school years actually protected me from a lot of that indoctrination.
Yeah.
I was in fourth grade when I was taken, and I totally withdrew after that. I completely withdrew from the system after that, because I knew there was more out there, because I knew that wasn't the right way to learn. They were plugging us into television screens and showing us movies, and that's how we learned. We didn't have a homework and the blackboard and regurg testing, and we didn't have all that. And so when I got back, I didn't know why, but I knew that wasn't the best way to learn, that school was just basically a big hamster wheel that we were on, and I kind of withdrew from it. Let me ask you this. So the other thing, the kids don't get the boy or the girl program anymore.
No, that's a whole
They're
other
getting
thing.
their genders completely twisted. School is just totally
Gone the
that's all
opposite.
been flushed. And this is the first time in really the history of mankind that they've done this. And they're acting like that's the way it is, and our kids are, kind of defenseless against it. But they're coming with the gender stuff. I'm not entirely against it, because I feel like you know, the portion of people. Like, I think it was the other way around. And we're talking about a tough subject that, you know, can blow up quickly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I can make people watching this mad at me quick by even mentioning this stuff. But when you talk about in terms of where homosexuality and bisexuality has been in history, it's really changed. And I think that there had to be a certain amount of, you know, people had to quit hating them. Like it was back when I was a kid, it was like, you know, kill them. Like that was what they were. That was kind of the social thing, was like no gay people allowed. They were very hateful, you know, so the culture. And so I think that that was wrong, and they should be able to, you know, people should be able to express love. Whoever, love is difficult, no matter how you slice it, to pull it off. So it's worthy. But I also think that we're at a dangerous place because they're actually programming the kids too. And I think that ultimately it's in the name of population control or control altogether. I think a lot of it isn't healthy. There's a lot of data, and you know when something's wrong nowadays because you're not allowed to speak about it.
Yeah.
If they,
Well, I think what children should be, they should be raised in a loving environment where they're allowed to explore their own feelings and their own sexuality, wherever that leads them, but to have it pushed on them and become kind of a programming, that's absolutely wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
Yeah, and the stuff about gender confusion early at school, you were mentioning, Tony. To me, I think it's orchestrated by dark organizations behind, and to me, as I understand it, it's to cause division. Okay, to confuse children that they can't identify to nature, to who they are, and they're lost in their head. So when you're confused, you're more able to be manipulated. But I think that's this, but as well there's the division, a division agenda, because who cares? You want to identify as whatever you want. Who cares? It's great. Enjoy. You know, we should think like that. You want to be someone else, but it's your path. It's your life. It doesn't concern anyone. None of anyone's business. That's how it should be, and everybody respect everyone's decision. No, but that from school they say, oh, the other ones is things like this, and this is not good, and blah blah blah. Division. What do you think? Do you agree?
well, there's a lot going on right now. I think that a lot of ways, wow, I didn't think we'd be talking about this, but in a lot of ways, I feel like we're being primed to be conquered, to be honest with you. The traditional male, like I feel really bad for the young boys. I grew up, and the reason I do is because I'm a boy. So I know, so the part of me that grew up and under the rule set that I grew up in, the society that I grew up as a young boy, was difficult, right? So there are things that are difficult. There are things that are not difficult, right? So either, no matter what you are. So there's, as a young girl, there are things that are difficult, and there are things that come easily, and it's vice versa for as a male. And I look at it now and I see so many things being taken away from young boys. So for a young boy to come up and behave and aspire to grow up to be a man, which is earned, not given, is being taken away. They're just being everything. And there are many things that need to be changed about, you know, adolescence and manhood, whatever, many stereotypes, because men. But I don't think that a lot of the abuse that they cite when they say, you know, men are the ones that do all the rape and men are criminals and all this, I think that's not because we're men. It's because society doesn't accommodate people, you know. So, but what I'm saying is I'm seeing that manhood, the goal, for a kid that's born nowadays to grow up and be a young boy and a young man and then a man, that distance is great now versus what it ever was in history. And the thing is, the men are the fighting force. There's no two ways you split it. So when you put on the media nowadays, every show, every woke thing ever has a 110-pound girl beating up Navy SEALs and doing backflips and running the corporation and flying the ship. You know what I mean? Like, it's great. And I think that young girls should be empowered in a way. But I think what they've done is they're taking it away from young boys. And so they're going to grow up. So what I'm seeing is emasculation. I don't even know the word. I'm not even saying it right, but I'm saying roll the clock 10 years forward, and you have a bunch of not very manly men. And then if a war, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's our fighting force. So in a way, there's a military advantage to demasculating the men of a populace. There's a military advantage there, because those are the guys that ultimately pull the trigger if you have to defend yourself. We're seeing it play out right now in the Ukraine, and they're kicking butt because they got all the men stayed. They kicked all the women and children left the country, and the men stayed back, and they're fighting to the death, and they're winning. They're being successful. You know what I mean? Like that, the conflict is going way farther than it should have. Anybody thought it would be. But when you have a bunch of, you know, when you pull that out of the fighting, when you're feminizing the male end of a society, it's like you're losing that defensive power too. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. I think that overall inclusion and young boys learning to not be so much young boys that pick on each other and other people, you know what I mean? Like, I feel that that's a good thing, but I think it's happening way too quickly. What they're doing right now is kind of it's an unhealthy dose of medicine that we're seeing the kids have. Gender identity and the whole thing. I think that while maybe good intentioned, I think it's an unhealthy dose. I think that it's something that should have been playing out. It should play out over generations, not in one generation, is how I feel. That's what I see. I have kids, you know, my youngest daughter is 16, and I see what goes on. And, you know, this generation is much different than anything we've ever had before, anything we've ever seen before, you know. So there's a little bit of red flags going on. And I'm quite sure that I've already said enough to make thousands of people mad at me. That's the other thing, you know what I mean? Like,
but it's good to trigger people, because you think, you discuss, you know. It's in a way, it's good to just bring conversation and topics, and then, you know, it makes you think, you know. It's good. We're not obliged to all get on with each other. We need to have different opinions. That's what makes, you know, the civilization grow up, to just discuss about things.
Right.
You know?
The ability to talk about it is how you solve it, not making people not be able to talk about anything. And that's the really disturbing trend, is the loss of, you can't even speak about it before you get canceled. And so that's a big red flag.
Yeah. Go on, Niara.
Yeah. The disturbing part is seeing it pushed on kids. Mm-hmm. That's the really disturbing part. It's not just allowing them to grow up and then find out, you know, 17, 18 years old, you know, all these years, I really felt more feminine than masculine. And now that I'm older, I think I'm going to go ahead and make the decision to either just be openly gay, or go ahead and have a sexual reassignment surgery. But then they're making the decision from a place where it was their decision. It wasn't something programmed into them or pushed on them by these people that are trying to run this agenda. There was an article out of the Epic Times about a girl who started out as a girl, and she was pushed into gender reassignment surgery. And now she's trying to reclaim becoming a girl because it was pushed on her. And she said, I didn't have the idea, and it was really painful. I mean, it was physically painful for her. She said, I wasn't old enough to make that decision. And it was really pushed on me.
Right.
You know, these kids have to be let alone and discover who and what they want to be for themselves. They have to create their own narrative inside their own heart and their mind. You know, they can't have it pushed on them from the outside. There's
a startling statistic of, and it's females. So for like 100 years, there were people getting gender dysphoria, but it was always males. Mm-hmm. So for 100 years, all the people that wanted a sex change was a male that wanted to go to a female. For 100 years, and now it's all females. And there's a startling statistic that I forget what it is, like 40% of them regret it. They get a reassignment surgery, and we're starting to get the data back. And by the time they get into their mid to late 20s, they absolutely regret the decision because their feminism kind of blooms. And so that's a dangerous thing. Like, I think everybody can agree everybody can agree, every parent would agree that nobody has a business teaching their kid anything sexual until puberty, the age of puberty, right? So wherever that's at, I think everybody can agree to that.
Yeah.
And that's the trend, is that they're starting this at a young age where the kids don't even know what sex. Of course, you could be talked into identifying as a different sex when you're a kid, because they play pretend everything. They have an open mind and everything is a play world. They're playing with cowboys and Indians one minute, and now they're girls and ballerinas, and or tomboys and playing soldier. So I mean, kids will be kids and they want to play and discover so they're being influenced at pre-puberty ages, whatever, no more big words. But they're being influenced, and we're seeing that, and it's systemic. So they've been on board. The entire system has already got the infrastructure. They got the laws passed. Like, everything happened and was waiting for this to happen.
Yeah.
And so there's a huge goal in mind, which may not be great. The other thing is, let me ask you this. Well, I've got both of you coincidentally. Post-disclosure society, we are going to get ETs that are not necessarily male or female, that do have a different pronoun. You know what I'm saying? They may require pronouns. So this could be a step towards like a post-disclosure society. Like I said, it's albeit an unhealthy dose of medicine. But I've said this many times in interviews that we're not ready for the uncomfortable stuff that we're going to learn with other cultures when we disclose. There are going to be cultures that do things that we aren't ready for.
Because the deep states make sure that we are not ready, by confusing us, by creating division between people fighting, and the cancel culture and everything. I mean, this is done to make us also not ready to be confronted to cultures from other world civilizations, where you have different races and different species, or you have three. I've heard about a species that has 6 genders, and every gender plays a role in reproductions, or they want or not. I mean, the pronouns it's not a problem anymore. They have no pronouns. It's just like what is going to happen if we develop this cancel culture and this division with gender confusion, when we are confronted to other species who are not binary, trinary, or whatever, and who have passed over this threshold of caring about it, that is going to change everything. We are going to see ourselves differently. Like, why have we been fighting over it? Why? Yeah.
True.
Well, I think, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that I remember that most species still had the male-female dynamic. Like, throughout the cosmos, when I was on Ceres Colony, most of them had the male-female dynamic where, the women were in demand. Kind of like the men do the chasing and are kind of, whatever, the ones that were chasing, and the women had it was the same dynamic. But we were aware that there were many species that would change throughout their lifetime how it worked, and there were species that didn't even have sexual anatomy the way that we think about it. They had many different ways. Like, so there are different combinations, different ways that we're going to come in contact with. And so maybe this culture of what they're introducing is, going to accommodate that, or to where kids that grow up and get a post-disclosure information can kind of digest other species. Or maybe it's certain species that are getting ready to come here and invite themselves in under that, like maybe it's one group that is behind it, so that they're, it's their culture, that's influencing us unbeknownst to us. So that's something that's possible. But I remember most of the dynamic, they said that, I don't remember the percentage, but that most of the cosmos, the humanoid species at our level of development, have the same dynamic where, the male-female thing. The women are in demand. Women are still getting chased after, but even if it was a frog or a lizard, whatever it was, they were still kind of having the same dynamic. So
yeah, that's the most binary is the most widespread that of It's my impression as well. If you
Well,
want.
whatever
Yeah.
we talk about here, I think the agenda of the people trying to push the gender identity thing, the wokeness and things like that, they seek to make people confused. They seek to divide people against one another. And if they were, let's just say that over the next decade, they're completely successful and they get people to do gender reassignments, surgeries, and they create a culture where you can identify with whatever gender you want to be or whatever type of human you want to be, or maybe even identify as an animal. If they're successful with that and there's a culture created that in which all that is okay, these people that are in control of this could suddenly come in and reinstitute male and female, and because you think you're a woman now, that's a really bad thing, and if you think you're a man now, that's a really bad thing. They would come in and they try to create confusion again. They try to do away with all the different stuff that they're trying to make okay now, because the whole agenda is division, confusion, and division through confusion, and messing up education so people don't even have a smidgen of education anymore. All they have is indoctrination. I mean, they don't teach phonics in school anymore, and they haven't for many years, and people struggle. They struggle to pronounce words that should be easy. Like I talked to a customer service rep on the phone one time that couldn't really even understand the word tactical. You know, talking to her about a tactical thing, something that got ordered on my credit card, and I wasn't sure I ordered it. And she finally spelled the word out for me, and I said, "Oh, that's tactical." She says, "Oh, okay, tactical." And I didn't get mad at her, because obviously the educational system really failed this woman. You know, they really failed her by not teaching her. But I run into that everywhere, where people are having so much difficulty reading and thinking critically and everything else like that, because the educational system is just flat failing them completely. They're not learning critical thinking. They're not learning even how to spell words properly, how to sound them out, to say them correctly. And just imagine the anger and frustration with someone who wants to say something to someone else and they don't have the language skills to say it, and how frustrated they're going to get in trying to communicate it to someone else. And then the person receiving that has the same problems. You know, there's going to be like, there's potential for a big fight. No, you're not understanding me. Well, you're not making sense, you know, and then there's fights. I mean, that's why they do this kind of stuff, to create the division and create turmoil, because when the turmoil is pointed at each other, it's not pointed at them where it belongs to be pointed at.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. You can't figure it out. You can't, when you're too busy, like you said, confused. The other thing that kids don't learn anymore is astronomy or physics, or the idea that you can't, you know what I mean? That you can't build a TV screen 20,000 miles long and power it with the sun that'll warm us. I'm going off on a tangent. You know where I'm going with this, Elena.
Yeah.
They are able to sell the flat earth BS to people because they're uneducated. And I said at a certain point, like I sat down and on top of serving in working basically in a UFO, serving in a fleet of spaceships for 12 years and having those memories. On top of that, I also was like an amateur astronomer and realized that you can't do it, that the flat earth thing doesn't work. You know, like I've been to the southern hemisphere and I know the stars from the astronomy, that it's not a TV screen. And I've said this, and I argued with some flat earth people, and you know, I said, look, man, and tried to be cool about it. So that's the other thing, is like the flat earth people, you try to be cool and go, hold on, you know, it's not true. We can prove it right now. If you just bear with me, we can, you know, let's talk through this. They don't do that. And what I realized is the same thing that you're saying, Niara. It's an IQ test. These people haven't been educated enough to understand that they can go out and prove the world's round to themselves. It doesn't take much, but it's an IQ test. They don't know that they don't know the scientific method of going and having a hypothesis and then thinking up an experiment and then conducting it and then data gathering and then redoing it. So that process, they've never been taught. They don't know the physics behind what they're proposing. And they're falling for these high pressure, these ads that are basically, flat earth shows that really drive it home to you. So if you don't have that critical thinking, the stuff we should have been taught in school, if you don't have those capabilities of actually saying, because when I first watched a flat earth video, I was like, whoa, is it flat? And the more I thought about it, because you don't think about all the variables at once. And the more and then I sat and went, wait, no, that can't be. There's just no way, because it's really round and we live in a world. And I mean, and I've actually put my eyeballs on the space station as it flew over, like in my telescope. Like I've actually done that. And so I always recommend astronomy to people, but you're right, our school system, you would think that school would be the finest and most worthy investment of any society, any country, any society, that you think that the school system would be the greatest investment you could do, because it pays dividends times a million. When you have an educated society, you will want school to be better and better and better. And just like, you look at some of the Scandinavian countries and see their stats of their school kids, and they no homework and their stats. So our system is completely stagnant and going backwards on purpose.
It's even a weapon. It's even a weapon.
It's weaponizing, It's equally dangerous is kids don't learn physics in school anymore. Or not physics, I meant civics.
Civics.
They don't learn about government. They don't learn in the United States. They don't learn much about our Constitution and the rights guaranteed to us therein. They don't learn any of that stuff. So they're ripe for the picking for these people that want to indoctrinate them whichever way they want. And that was probably the whole aim of dumbing down the educational system for the last several decades in the first place. That was the aim, We want to dumb them down so that we can justify taking control of their entire life because they're too stupid to run it themselves. Well, unfortunately, we're not all dumbed down yet.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to take our world back. That's how I feel.
Oh, it has started. Yes. Well, it has started. People are just have waken up, and we start to see how we have been just misled, and
the good news is that there is a better way. I think we're on the verge of a lot of things. Like I said, my biggest thing for school was that it was just archaic, that wasn't the best way. That when I was in the programs, I wasn't sitting in front of a textbook and a blackboard when they taught us something. And this was a military secret space program that was teaching us how to do advanced, I was doing in the beginning ship maintenance, and it was a movie. You know what I mean? I sat in front of a movie and it tracked my eyes like the mouse. It would track my eyes where I was. So I had a cursor on the screen and it said, is this your answer? And it would move on to the next chapter. And it was way faster and way more engaging way of learning. So I didn't fall asleep. Well, you couldn't. But, it's like I didn't get bored and wander off like you do in school. So there's a better way to teach subject matter. And it's one of the things I'm going to try to present at the next conference I go to. I'm ever the optimist with the stuff we're talking about. When you sit and think about it, you go, whoa, this is pretty bad. But I'm an optimist. I think that, I think the giants are fighting amongst themselves, and when it ends, then, you know what I mean? They'll quit kind of screwing up the ecosystem that we all live in, and things we can get on with it. We can get on with disclosing and kind of getting on with being a society that actually cares. I think if I die and the angel asks me, where do you want to go? I'm going to say somewhere where they want me to be better off. I want to go live where the government wants me to thrive, not somewhere where they want to poison me with food and make me dumb. Like I want to live somewhere where they want me to actually kick ass. And so that's going to be my whole request. I joke to myself that all the time. I'm always joking that all the time. Like I want to live somewhere where they want me to actually do good rather than, feed me this crap.
Be supported into unfolding into your full potential as a human being.
Yeah. How hard is that? Yeah.
Yeah. That's the last thing that the deep state wants, that we empower, we are empowered, and we discover who we are and develop our personality. That should happen at school, you know. There are some schools like Montessori, for instance. I know in Ireland where I live, there's a lot of Montessori schools, and they allow the kids to develop their own personal talents, and then they work upon that. Oh, you have a talent for that, let's develop it, you know. There are schools in UK where they teach kids telepathy. You know, it's coming. It's in the verge of changing, but it's taking time. But it's
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah.
I feel a little left out. I didn't get that. We didn't have telepathy 101 in school.
I know. I know.
Who knows?
I know.
Who knows?
I know. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah.
Focus on your empathy. That's the path inward to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, tell empathy. You know, being
Empathy.
able to tell what another person is thinking or is feeling, I should say. What another person is feeling is the gateway towards telepathy.
Yes.
So,
And I think something that people should be really taught again into its respect. Respecting everyone's free will. You see someone that you know taking a decision, you don't agree, you say, oh, you know, I have different opinion on that, but you can talk about it. And okay, it's at the end of the day, it's your decision, and I respect you because I like you as a human being, you know. But you know, we are just driven into, you think wrong, I'm right, and boom, boom, boom.
yeah.
That is going to change, I believe.
Well, I've had this idea, and maybe I'll develop it further and do some writing or a video on it. But it would be thinking, you know, we get all these narratives pushed at us all the time. And I would like to explore the topic of, with other people, you know, how can you create your own narrative? How can you sift yourself free of all the conditioning that's being pushed at you from the outside and make your own narrative that fits who you are? You'd have to put yourself away from society for a little bit, or take some time out every day to just be by yourself and feel your own feelings. But in doing that, is pushing away the indoctrination that others are trying to force on you, and getting more in touch with who you are in your heart and soul, and finding what is your personal narrative and what does it include for yourself. Does it include creativity of some kind, singing, writing, painting, whatever, you know, some kind of creative expression? Does it include caring for animals? I mean, what is uniquely in your heart? What kind of narrative could you create for you that would govern your reality? And I'll just throw something else in here that I found out years ago in a Unity church when I was looking at all the metaphysical books and feeling like I found a gold mine. I was looking around at all these books, and I think I'm going to buy a couple of these. And I wonder which one is the best one to tell me about living my life. And Spirit came in and said, you don't have to buy one of these books to learn how to live your own life. What you need to do is decide for yourself, what is the best way of living? What's the most loving way? What's the best way you can imagine to live yourself? And what would all the rules be? And then just simply live that way. And the universe itself will very quickly teach you which of your ideas are not right and which are. And I didn't buy a book that day at all. I just took that idea in and went home.
You know, Niara, the one of the most inspiring example of this reshaping of their own reality, it's actually Tony, because you were a slave in the Dark Fleet, and despite this, you, even if you couldn't physically, technically get away from it, you reshaped it from the inside. You worked hard, and you grew in the hierarchy of your job. You became a good technician, and you earned a little bit of freedom by working from the inside, because you had this determination to reshape your own reality within these boundaries. And when the moment came that they released you and wiped your mind, you decided you wouldn't forget. And no, my theory is because you were in love with a woman, that you talk about that in your book, and it was in your heart, because it was not a memory of the brain, as Niara was describing, but the memory of the heart. And your memories of her were in your heart mind, if I know. And you describe in a book, I don't want to forget her. And
Mhm.
what do you think? What do you have to say about that, Tony?
I look back on it all the time, and I made the most of what I could with what I could. And for me, I felt very accomplished. Like I felt like very accomplished. Like in that time, I went a long distance. It's like it was a big accomplishment. I didn't want to let go of that. And feeling loved in that time was a big deal. So because I lived 18 years of zero any kind of emotional support or any kind of loving feeling, anything like that. I was just, like an orphan. And that's a big difference. Like my life was nothing like that. And here, when I came back, my life was not like that. I actually made myself lonely because of the, you know what I mean? Because of what I left. Like I got used to being alone out there. So I sought out loneliness here and mistakenly. But that was a big accomplishment for me. Like I said, some people, if some people is born poor and they become a millionaire, it's a big accomplishment. A person that's born a millionaire and becomes a billionaire, it's a big accomplishment. I was a slave and had a free, I got to where I could come and go, and I was alone. I was taught that I should have no self-esteem, no self-worth, and then somebody loved me. I earned somebody's love. So for me, that was the same as being zero to billionaire. You get what I mean? Like that was the same kind of feeling I had. And everybody, I think that's what's missing from a lot of people. I say it does kind of parallel to what Niara is saying, is that's what life is. It's not, there's no goal, there's nothing set there. It's up to you. It's like you have to appreciate the distance that you've traveled for your life to find happiness. Like I tell people all the time, I can go, they can put me out in the woods of Siberia, I'll be happy. I've learned that very little makes me to consciously make up my mind that I'm happy. I used to think there was a number. I thought I'd earn this. Or if I earned enough money, I could love myself. People will love me. If I hit a dollar amount, then I'll be happy, because that's what I'm supposed to do. Get back to work. And what I realized one day, I just let it this was another thing that happened after I got my memories back. This was something that happened immediately to change what I thought. I'm already happy. I looked around, I thought, I don't need to chase anything. And I stopped letting people abuse me in my real life. Like, after I got my memories back, that was the lesson I learned. Like once I reabsorbed all that, what I'd been through, I thought, I'm already happy. I don't need to have millions of dollars. I don't need a bunch of stuff. I'm going to be happy no matter what happens. I'm happy. And my entire attitude changed like that. And I think that's missing from a lot of people. I think a lot of people have a lot to be thankful for. When I get out of here today and go drive down the road, I think a lot of people that I pass on the road should be happy, and they're not. And I think that they have a lot to be thankful for, and most people don't, because we have the real carrot and stick thing going on in the world today, where you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, and you go. And if not, then you're not going to be better than the next guy, kind of thing. And it's like, no, you got to take where you started out. You got to take what they dealt you, and then you got to take where you're at. And I guarantee, if you think about the distance that you personally came with the cards that you personally, we all didn't get, the same lot in life. But if you take what you started with and where you're at now, I'll bet you have plenty of reasons to be happy, be thankful for. Everybody. And I think that's going to change. I mean, if you look at life like that, it made a world of difference to me to do that, to just stop and go, I'm happy where I'm at. Like the little things, and people that aren't happy, I tend, that's the other thing is I think I get the most problem from people that are unhappy, you know, that I'm happy with my little thing, and they have this, you know, I'm if I paraphrase it like a boat, like I've got a little rowboat, little kayak, and I love kayaking, but they've
Yeah.
got a giant yacht, and what am I doing being happy in front of them? You know, like, you shouldn't be happy. I've got a yacht. Why are you? I'm not happy, right? And I think those are the people that give me in my life that give me the most trouble, is people that they can smell happiness on you, and they like think you shouldn't be. And so I think that's a big deal, you know, like that's a big deal, like with our culture where we're at is being content, because it tends to be a sickness when you're not, when you ignore your blessings, it festers into a sickness. And that's where a lot of people, I think that's where a lot of the abusive people come from. They're not thankful. So I'm on a rant, man. I'm
Yeah, know your blessings and be grateful for everything you have. Niara, you also are an inspiration for showing the example of someone who has gone through the darkest trauma and not only heal from it by yourself, but walking the step further to a spiritual harmony and accomplishment, and that's very inspirational as well. What was the little fire that just helped you to do that kept you going?
Couple things, I suppose. Once I realized what had been done to me, it was kind of like the best, how do I want to say it? The best revenge would be to live well and to live happy and to thrive rather than survive. You know, to me, I guess that's one way to say it. You know, the best revenge is these people did this stuff and they had an intention for me to not even realize what had been done to me my whole life. Maybe they even had an intention for me to commit suicide so their secret would be kept forever. It didn't happen. The best thing is to thrive, to be happy, to be as well as you can, and then that's the ultimate revenge on people that would try to hurt you and limit you in some way. You know, learn to thrive, learn to really be happy, learn to develop yourself. You know, I mean, I'm really kind of fortunate to have so many creative avenues available. I mean, I paint, I make drums with artwork on them, I sing, I write. You know, I really am fortunate to have all these skills and creative abilities. And sometimes the problem has been which one is the best one to focus on. So for 4+ years, I focused on writing the book, and I am a good writer. So I'd love to write another book. If this healing technology that I'm going to go and experience is really good, then writing another book becomes a real possibility for me, because I won't have all this body pain that keeps me from sitting at a computer for a long period of time. And also, you know, my artwork. It's like right now, if I do artwork, I have to work a little bit and then my hands get fatigued because they got this problem in them. And then I have to go back to it, you know, so it's kind of back and forth, instead of just being able to lose myself an entire day in a creative process. So I really hope this healing technology turns things around for that. So I can really, I mean, I would be, you know, hate to say it, you know, if I really could live at my full capacity, look out world. Look out deep state. You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a very, very invigorating way to complete this this beautiful, interesting conversation we've just had together. And I think we'll do that more often now. If you're willing, I'd like to do that again, because we had that.
I think it's very productive to look at this, because there's so many issues confronting people today that have less to do with full disclosure of extraterrestrial presence. I mean, that's really important. It's really an important subject. And I think we should talk about that more too. But there are so many things confronting all of us as human beings today that I think there are a lot of people out there that really would enjoy and value having our perspective on these things from our unique experience that we have. And so I think we should do more of these, you know, at least maybe one per quarter, you know, one every 3 months would be good with how busy we are in our lives, you know, to try to meet once every 3 months, you know, doesn't seem like too much to ask.
Yes. Let's think about maybe one effectively about extraterrestrial contact and interaction and how to prepare to it and how our own experience, because yes, all three together, I think we all have pieces of an amazing puzzle.
Well, and there's a lot of overlap between us too. So that's what blows me away, is that I'm always hearing things that out of both of you that I go, wow, how did they know that? You know, like, well, I know how, but there's overlap. There's a lot of overlap. So it's important. It's important to point that out for people, because we're still not disclosed. We're still in a point where, you know, we still have to prove this. We still have to prove ourselves to the people, to the public, to the mainstream, because a lot of people have their head in the sand of what's going on. So it's important. So anytime we have anything that's like a shred of evidence, it's important to present still.
Yeah.
One day it won't be.
I would say less about proving myself and more about just standing in my truth. Standing in my truth in an unshakable way. Fine, you don't want to believe me? That's cool. You know, if I was you and didn't have my years of experience, I probably wouldn't believe me either. You know, but I'm going to stand in my reality and what I know is real and true. And that makes a big statement to the world right there.
Yes, it does. Exactly.
Yes. Standing in what you know, you know. And that's something as well that that life taught me about my own experience, to accept and embrace the awareness that people will think I'm crazy and I'm fine. You know, it's their perspective and they're entitled to, and I understand why they should think I'm crazy, you know, and it's fine. I'm fine with that. I just tell my experience, share it, and if it can help others, you know. So
time will tell.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. We can all agree at 100%. You know, no sense fighting about anything because time will tell.
Yes, totally. So listen, that was great. So I show again your two books that I read cover to cover each of them. So two inspirational people who with different but kind of similar stories, but different anyway, who show us how you can when you are just dragged down into horrible dark experience, how you can extract yourself from it, reshape your reality by your own free will, even if physically you can't just do stuff. The mind, you change your reality and the perception, the experience is different. And you're so inspirational, you both. And
thank you. You are too.
Thanks. Yeah, speak of the devil. Yeah.
Well, yes, let's talk about ETs next time. And
Awesome. Great idea. Great seeing you ladies again. And thanks everybody at home.
Yeah, lots of love to you guys and lots of love to our audience out there, wherever you may be. We love you.
We love you. Bye.
Okay. Bye.